We're going to straddle in, but we just want to stay on time and appreciate you guys' time. My name's Travis. I'm part of the Fogg Miranda team. We're going to just kind of go through some points on the home buying process. And like I said, just you guys being here is incredible. So one of the biggest things is, if you have the papers, is when is a serious time of buying? And it's when you guys have talked it over and it's logical, and I'll talk about an emotional side of it as well. That's when you want to hire a realtor, is when you want to get prepared and you want to start learning the market. And then the second one is when you need guidance. So usually people are unfamiliar with, they might want a single family home, but they don't know what neighborhood or what price range or the area or maybe the schools. And that's what kind of realtors will provide is more of an insight of obviously the market, but what's going to be surrounding the house that you choose, because this is a new chapter of your life, new memories, and it's not just about the home, it's everything around the home as well. And when you want access to more listings, so what we have is something called the MLS, which is a multiple listing service. And I know these days with a lot of apps you have what's on the market, but one valuable thing that we still have is coming soon as well as active listings. What's great about the coming soon, once again, you guys can do your homework, look at the neighborhood, already kind of discuss it, and then as soon as it hits the market, you guys are somewhat ahead of the game of other people. So that's what's great about having just more access, because you might find out that instead of living in Burbank, just as an example, you want to live in Studio City, and you never really gave that a thought because you didn't know the neighborhoods. So that's a great one. And then when you want expert negotiation, so that's one of my favorite parts. When you're in the real estate thing, obviously you guys want to get the best price on the property, but another thing is about negotiating everything else. There's terms, there's contingencies, and just the overall writing of the contract is something that this is one of the biggest financial decisions of your guys' life, as well as there's going to be appreciation with the house, and it's just about finding the right home, but also getting the right price as well. And then when you want someone to represent you with your interests. So one of the biggest things in real estate is it's overwhelming. It can be stressful and anxious, and you don't really know what's coming up. And you have someone that's there for you that has done it a lot and is really going to take all of that stress and anxiety off of you, so you guys can have fun and enjoy and be excited of this big decision. So that's really kind of a big thing, or at least one of my favorite parts is the negotiation part. And then to me, when you want a smoother process, so like I said, going back to the one I just said, you guys just want to focus on getting a new home. You guys want to be excited. You want to, just talk excited and joyful about it. And to me, hiring a realtor takes the stress and anxiety away, that you know that someone has your back and has your interest and is going to do everything in their power to make it the smoothest transaction and also the best possible deal for you guys. So everyone else is going to come up and kind of talk, but I just wanted to kind of go over these points a little bit. And like I said, I really appreciate all of you coming out, and have a great rest of the time.
Hi, I'm Lila Drews, and I want to introduce the team first, because you have some incredible people who invited you here. So Grace Miranda is the owner and our chief person that's here. She's wonderful and she makes it happen. We have an incredible team behind us. Nothing happens without Holly or DJ that are in the back. They take care of the technical aspects of everything and make sure that you're comfortable. We have Monica right there. We have Travis that you just met, Ty Harmon, wave, and we have Shannon Brandon. So I just wanted you to know who everyone is here, because we have a really good team. Anyway, I am going to talk to you about preparing the do's and don'ts. How many of you go out and look at homes just out of curiosity? Anybody here do that? Ah, okay. Are you pre-approved? All right, so we're going to talk all about that. Before you start the process, you really want to talk, if you're with a significant other, you want to have that dialogue of what your lifestyle is like. Where is your work? Where do you play? Where are your friends? And then map out where the ideal location would be. And once you've gotten that all written out, you want to then check your credit score to see how healthy it is, because that's really important in any market. After that, you want to speak to a lender, Joby, for example, who will come up later. Your lender will help you with your finances to look at how your debt to income ratio is going to be, what you should focus on to pay off sooner, what things you should pay off later. A lot of people make a mistake and they end up saying, I've got to pay off all the bills. And some bills you want to keep, some others you want to focus on, and a lender will help you make those decisions to really boost up your score and make your process even better for you. And ask your lender what type of programs they have, because there's not a one size fits all. There are several out there and they change every day, and Joby will talk more about that later. You want to continue to save for your down payment. So even though you might not be ready today, or maybe not in the next 30 or 60 days, you want to start putting money away now, so that way you are ready to have that down. And the one thing that you don't want to worry about is, do I have enough for like a 20% down? Not every offer requires a 20% down. And Joby will attest to that and let you know. So don't let that be one of your inhibitors. And then what Travis did earlier is that once you get pre-approved, once you know what your budget is, and once you know where the location or area that you want to be, you want to find a real estate agent. And hopefully you've all already acclimated and are going to have one of our guys do that for you, because they're going to help and be your advocates. What you don't want is to go from one person to the next who doesn't know you, they're not invested in you, and they're not looking out for the long-term picture. Because sometimes you don't find your home in 30 or 60 or 90 days. It could take longer. And you want an agent that's in there for the big picture with you. Good ones hang in there. Some of us have had 2 years, some of us have had 3 years, and 4 years working with people for various reasons, and that's the commitment that you want back from someone. The things that you don't do when you're getting ready to buy a home and you've done everything on the top, you do not finance a car, you do not do big ticket item prices, you don't determine that you're gonna go to Tahiti or Europe for a while, and you don't rev up all your credit cards. That's a deal breaker right off the boat. So those are the things you don't do while you're getting started. Don't quit your job. If you're miserable, stay miserable for a little bit longer so you can get that job. But if you're going to change jobs, it has to be in the same career and that you're making more money. Any good lender will help work that through. But you don't want to work less, and you don't want to leave an industry, because that's kind of a no-no from a lending standpoint. And again, don't assume you need a 20% down, because if that's what's holding you back, don't let it. And if you have any questions at the end of it, we'll be here to answer it one-on-one. And I'm here to introduce, really, the person you really want to hear from is our guest speaker, and that's Joby Whalen.
Oh my God, I'm like the main event. Piece of this thing. My name's Joby, and I am with House America Financial, which is irrelevant. And I'll just give you a little bit of background. I've been in the business for just about 20 years. So I've seen kind of the good times and the bad times and the good times and the bad times. And we're in like the in-between times right now. So I've got a lot of experience with this. And I love, I will just say that my first experience buying a home was not very pleasant. I was younger than I am now, that's for sure. I was young, the realtor didn't really listen to me, the lender, I thought, talked too fast and wasn't explaining things and was going through these numbers, and I didn't know what they were saying, or I didn't understand the terminology that they were using, and I didn't feel comfortable asking questions. And it really has informed how I try to conduct my business. It's just, I remember that feeling, I remember it all these years later. So you're with such a great team here with regard to the real estate side. And I'll try to make things as simple and straightforward as I can. Lending is, of course, like yawn, like we all have to talk about it, but they have all the more exciting stuff to talk about. My stuff is a little bit dry. And I'm covering down payment assistance programs, grant programs, and kind of first-time home buyer. And it all really sort of goes together. So I've given you guys 4 handouts, and they're in really kind of no particular order, but The looking for down payment assistance is basically this stuff, but you have it here, and I'm gonna go over it. I'm not gonna go through, I'm gonna just touch on each of these programs so that you at least have heard the terms, because I know you're hearing them out there. You're seeing them on social media, you're seeing them, talking to your coworkers. Everybody is throwing out this, different things for first-time home buyers. And I would say, in my time in my career, this is probably one of the best times right now that you guys are entering into the market for first-time home buyers. I feel like there are so many programs available that you can at least try to avail yourself of. There's just more out there than I've seen in many, many years. So I feel like you're hitting it at a really good time to try to take advantage of some of these things. So I'm just gonna touch on some of these just really briefly. Again, you have them here, and I can answer any questions in depth that you'd like me to, but there's just a few things I wanna go over. So, down payment assistance. Like I said, there's a ton of them, and they all have different guidelines. So, you have to fit into these boxes. So, with regard to the first one, and I'm gonna just kind of say, like, the most popular. So I'm gonna start up here. The most popular, the one that's been around the longest, and probably the easiest to access, is what's called a Cal HFA loan, Cal HAFA. So it's California Housing Finance Association, or administration. So Cal HAFA has been around for many, many years. It doesn't run out of money. It doesn't have finite funding. It's been around for years. It's very simple. I just closed two a few months ago. It was so streamlined. Like, we closed them in 30 days. There's not a ton of hoops to jump through. So Cal HAFA is probably the most popular. And with the Cal HAFA loan, Cal HFA, you will get 3 to 3.5% for a down payment. So you can get a conventional loan or an FHA loan, which it's like a government loan. So conventional or FHA, 3% or 3.5%. It's basically a grant, essentially, right? So you're really getting 100% financing. You're coming in with no down payment. There are no payments on that loan that they're giving you for that down payment. There's no payments that you make on that. So you just make the payments on the rest of the loan. It's available in the entire state of California, and the income limit is super generous. It's $194,000. So it's a really generous income limit. It's a really good fit if you fit within those, especially the income limits, and you just don't have the down payment. Of course, if you're looking at a $700,000 condo and you're gonna try to put a Cal HAFA loan with it, that payment's gonna be super high. So all of these things can sound really great and like they're the answer to all your problems, but there's math involved. And obviously we have to be aware of the numbers and you have to be comfortable with the payment. That's like my big thing. So, but Cal HAFA is probably the most popular. The one that's probably the most advantageous is the 15, so on the left-hand side of this is the Community Opportunity Loan, and then underneath that is America Home Grant. Those two, the best way to use that is those two go together. So you get 100% financing for the loan, no down payment, and we'll talk about that piece first. It's 100% financing. You have to bring in a minimum contribution of $500, that's it. There's no first-time home buyer requirement. You don't have to have never owned a home before. You don't have to meet that. You can be a second, you could have owned a home in the years past and be going for this. There's no mortgage insurance on this loan. So you're getting 100% financing and there's no PMI, which is huge. And then there's no second lien. So like Cal HAFA with that down payment assistance that you got, that's a loan. That's what we call a lien. That's a second lien with the Cal HAFA. With this Community Opportunity, there is no second lien. And then there are income limits do apply, and the higher income limits, it gets so confusing. So I'm just gonna say it out loud and then we can talk about it privately if you are interested in these things. The higher income limits are for first generation home buyers. So, just to confuse things even more in 2023 and 2024, first generation home buyer. That's the new term that you're gonna hear. If you start looking at homebuyer programs and grants and down payment assistance, what you're gonna start hearing now is first generation homebuyer, not to be confused with a first time homebuyer. Those are two different things. So I've given you a cheat sheet here somewhere. I don't have it, but you have it, that defines first time homebuyer and first generation homebuyer generally, okay? So that program does not have a first time homebuyer component to it, which is great. Or, you know, if you want to go up higher, you have to be first generation, which we'll talk about. Then you can get up to a $15,000 grant that can go along with that. So with this particular program, you could get no down payment, so you get 100% financing, and then you can get up to a $15,000 grant for your closing costs. So if you're looking at a $350,000 condo, for instance, theoretically, you're bringing in maybe $500, right? So it's really like the most advantageous combo. And even if you don't qualify or don't want to go for the 100% financing, maybe you have a down payment, 5%, 10%, whatever, you could still get the grant on its own. So you could bring in your down payment and still get the $15,000 grant if you fit within the box. And the box is not too hard to fit within, I assure you. So, and that can be with an FHA loan, a conventional loan, so it's pretty flexible. So that's the most advantageous. And then there's a no minimum income requirement or maximum income requirement loan, which is it's the over here on the right, it's called the Empowered DPA. It's Empowered Down Payment Assistance. And this is only for an FHA loan. So it's 100% financing again. There's a second lien that they give you for that down payment, second loan. It's forgiven the day you close the loan. So you buy the house, they've closed the loan, it becomes yours legally, and that day, that lien is forgiven. So it's ridiculous, but it's there. So that's forgiven. It's a 30-year fixed rate. There's no income limitations on that whatsoever. You can make, you know, $600,000 a year and get that. So that is probably best, and you can have as low as a 580 FICO. That sounds easier than it might be, but you can go theoretically as low as 580, but you certainly a 620 credit score would be pretty easy to work with this particular program. So now, some things on this is it's a single, so here's where it gets a little tricky. It's a single rate option. This is not something where you will say to me, oh, Joby, I need the lowest rate there is, or oh, Joby, my other lender gave me this rate, you need to give me this rate. There's one rate available to this, end of story. And it's 7.75%, so it's really high. Well, in today's environment, it's high because most rates are in the sixes now. So it's a higher rate, it's an FHA loan, okay? So what happens is, you get this loan because you don't have the down payment. That's why you're gonna wanna get this loan. You might make good money, but you just don't have the down payment. And so you're gonna get this, and if you make 6 payments, so you get it, you'll have it for a month usually, then you make your first payment. So once you make 6 payments, you can refinance this loan very easily. It's called a streamline refinance into market rates. And let's say the market rate on this might be, it's an FHA loan, remember, interest rates on FHA loans are better than conventional loans right now. So the interest rate on this might be, if you were to just get a regular FHA loan, say 6%, but you're paying 7.75% to put no down payment and get into it easily, right? Then you refinance after 6 payments have been made, so you gotta be able to do that. You gotta be able to stand that payment for 6 payments. And then you refinance down to where market rates will be. And nobody has a crystal ball, but I mean, the prevailing thought really is, rates tick up and down every single day. But we're not seeing, you know, rates going like we have seen in the past. You know, one day I come into work and it's 7%, the next day I come into work and it's almost 8%. Like, the fluctuations have been so crazy. We're not seeing anything like that now. So the thought is, rates are going to come down. And then, you know, is it gonna be this year? Is it gonna be next year? I don't know. But you're gonna be able to refinance this to market rates, and it's for sure gonna be better than that 7.75. So this is great for no down payment. It's really a good loan. Okay, so what else do we have here? We've got, the other stuff is, okay, the one I really hate talking about, but I know you'll all see it on social media or anybody who's looking around for anything. Has anybody heard of the California Dream for All program? Oh yeah, you guys have, okay. So if you start going, God bless you for not having heard of it, but it's the state of California rolled out this program called the Dream for All program last year. It was a bloodbath. I mean, it rolled out and in, I swear, it felt like 4 days. It was just gone. It's a finite amount of funds that the state of California has budgeted and set aside to help homeowners get into houses throughout the entire state. So it was done in literally a week. The funds were exhausted and it was done. So what they've done is they've re-budgeted for it in this year's budget. It's rolling out, but it looks very different. So the California Dream for All, in theory, can get you up to 20% for your down payment. That's gonna really help you with your monthly payments because you're gonna be able to put 20% down on the loan. But there's so many hoops you have to jump through. So the way it's going to work, and I'll just give you the broad strokes, because honestly, it's still being worked out, but it rolls out the first week of April. You have 30 days, it goes to it's not even 30 days. Maybe it rolls out April 7th or something, it's April 3rd, and then it shuts down April 29th. I don't remember the exact dates. So it's not a first come, first serve program this time, right? You could be the last application in on the very last day, and you're in no worse position than the very first application that went in on day one. It doesn't matter. So it's not a first come, first serve thing. You have to get pre-approved. So let's say you call me, I pre-approve you, which Lila touched on, and I'll touch on in a minute, but I'll pre-approve you, then you have to get a certificate. I give you a certificate, and you have to upload that to the CalHFA site, and you have to upload a bunch of other documents, like driver's licenses, there's a bunch of social security, there's some stuff you have to upload. You have to take first-time homebuyer education classes, things like that. Once you get the certificate, you get entered into a lottery. And then you have to win the lottery to be able to get this lottery ticket and go shop for a home with this program. Chances are slim to none. I don't want to be depressing, but that's the truth. And it's the whole state of California. So maybe there's going to be 25,000 applicants and maybe 1,800 lottery tickets. No one knows exactly because they don't know when the funds are going to run out. They've allotted about $236 million for this program. So those are the hoops, just the mechanics of how it works. The harder part is the qualifications. So on this loan, and I've got, so you guys have got, sorry. So you have to be a first generation home buyer. There's that term again. Oh, it's a tough one. So here, I'm just gonna read it. You guys have the cheat sheet. You can stare at it and see if you apply, it applies to you. But as a first generation home buyer, you have not been on title or held any ownership interest or been on anybody's mortgage in the United States in the last 7 years. And to the best of your knowledge, your parents, either biological or adoptive, do not have any present ownership in a home in the United States. And if they're deceased, they did not own a home at the time of their death. And then one of the borrowers also has to be a first-time home buyer. That's the first-generation home buyer. A first-time home buyer is you have not owned a home in the last 3 years. So it's a bit of a tough one, but some people will get it. And I think if it's something that you're interested in, then you just have to go through the pre-approval process now. Now's the time to be getting pre-approved so that when it opens, and you have that 30-day period, so you have a 30-day period, you can at least try to pursue this. So if you think you fit the first generation and the first-time home buyer and those requirements, then get pre-approved now and just throw your hat in the ring, so to speak. The CalHFA site, CalHFA site, if you just Google CalHFA, California Dream for All, it is a super informative site with lots of hyperlinks to different things. All these requirements I've just read you, what you need to upload, the home buyer classes, all that stuff is on there, and it's it's very clear. I feel like it's a very easy site to go to and get some really good information. So I can answer any questions also, but lenders are even a little bit in the dark on this thing, to be honest. It's just, we're just gonna have to kind of feel our way through it, but you can check it out online as well. So, those are the main down payment assistance programs. I also gave you guys a flyer that talks about, it says income limits explained. And this is for these first two, the Community Opportunity and the America Home Grant. DJ, you're so good. I love this. These are the income limits for that. So you can read these and see if these are a fit for you. The very first one that says, okay, income limit of 98,000, the really low one, just take it off the table, disregard, because it cannot be used with the $15,000 grant. So just forget it. It's not even an option. Shouldn't even be on here. And then you can look at these other ones and it says first generation home buyer or first time home buyer and what the requirements are. An interesting thing about this particular program is if you look at the income limitations and you look at the one you can make up to $147,300. If two of you are buying, if either of you are moving from or to what's called a majority minority owned census tract. Okay, it's a mouthful. MMCT. So if you live in an apartment building or a house that's located in a census tract that's majority minority owned, and you're going to go buy in Beverly Hills, which is not majority minority owned, right? You'd still qualify for this because you're moving from a majority minority owned census tract. It is the strangest guideline, but it can be from or to. So when you look over these income limitations flyer, just pay attention to kind of what these requirements are and know that that's how that works. It's pretty interesting. Also it doesn't matter if you're buying out here. So the other stuff, do I have that slide?
Yeah.
Can I get to another topic? Okay. So types of loans that look, I know this stuff is so dry. I know the loans are so boring. Sorry guys. The types of loans that are available. So conventional loans, FHA loans, VA loans, jumbo, down payment assistance, non-QM. Like, this is such an interesting time, as I said, when you're going out to look, because there are so many options available to you, really, with lending. So all of these conventional loans, the loan limits, FHA loans, they're just phenomenal. You know, if you're a veteran, the VA loan is such a beautiful option to use. It's really great. And you know, I'm helping a friend of mine buy a house, and they want to downsize. And her husband is in entertainment. He does editorial. And last year was the strike, right? They had the strikes. It was just a rough year in entertainment. He's done okay, but they don't qualify for anything that's the super conventional. So the bottom one, this non-QM loan, is designed for that borrower. They have good deposits, they have income, they just don't show it on their tax returns. So we have options like that available to you if you're self-employed and you bring in deposits and money into a business account, but your tax returns don't really show the income. So there's so many options available with regard to lending. And I know that it can be super overwhelming. It can be just so much stuff and so much terminology. I try to simplify it as much as I can, but please feel free. My number's on everything that I've given you. If you have questions, and I'll stick around after, but if you have questions afterward that you just want to run something by me or run your particular scenario by me, or as Lila mentioned so beautifully, with regard to the don'ts, I have had, in the last probably 2 months, I've had 3 borrowers who quit their W-2 job to go and start their own business or be a 1099, right? So whatever. So just don't do that. Do not do that. That's all I can say. Just as Lila said, just be miserable for another minute or two, because that's just going to kill you dead in the water. It's very challenging. So, and also to touch on that as well, if you like she said, if you go from being, I had somebody once that was an actress that went to nursing school and became a nurse. So I had this sort of new history of nursing, but her time in nursing school counts toward her employment history, right? So if you're an accountant, if you go to school for accounting and you graduate from CSUN, and then you go get a job in an accounting corp, you're good. You have the employment history. If I have the 2-year history with schooling, we'll want transcripts and all of that stuff, but you meet the 2-year history of employment that way. We just have to work with the income piece because you don't have any history, so we have to figure that piece out if it's not a salary. So there's the point of that is that for all the big, broad, don't do this, don't do that, this is the guideline, this is don't quit your job, there's a ton of nuances in the middle of all of that can be discussed. So if you have a particular situation or scenario that you think is going to happen, or you would like to do something, please use me as a resource and reach out, and I'm happy to give you any information I have on anything. Happy to share. So I think that's it for my time, but I'll stick around after. You can ask me any questions you'd like. And thank you guys so much, the Miranda team, for inviting me to do this. I love doing it. Thank you.
So now we're going to talk about something really fun, budgeting and saving. So that's the $1 million question is, you want to buy a house, but where are you going to get all this money from, right? And it can be a little bit overwhelming and a little bit daunting, but it really doesn't have to be. So the first step is really to assess your financial situation. So what does that mean? Determine how much you make, figure out what you're bringing in. And you also want to list out all of your outstanding expenses, credit card bills, and prioritize, like if you have multiple credit card bills, make sure you include what you're paying in interest, like what your interest rate is. So that way you kind of have an idea of where, that's a good starting point. And then the next thing is to create a budget. So the good thing about budgeting is it basically shows your money who's boss. And that's all of you guys. You guys are the boss. So it's a good way to basically tell your money where to go, as opposed to wonder where all your money went. I know that sometimes you're like, wait a second, I just got paid and now I have like $0 in my checking account. What's happening? So that's one of the great things about budgeting is you basically direct your money in terms of where it goes. So you basically just add up all of your monthly income, and that would include, money from your job, any sort of side hustle you have, tax returns, anything like that. And then you want to add up all of your expenses, so housing, utilities, cell phone, for any expenses that are, different every month. Just do an average. How much on average you spend on, eating out and whatnot. And then basically you subtract your expenses from your income. And that basically is the starting point for your budget. It's kind of like, anything that you have left over is what you have to work with in terms of paying off your debt and saving. So the next step is you want to save strategically. So what does that mean? I personally think it's a great idea to open up a separate account for your down payment on your home and just automate it. You can have anytime you get paid, say 10% of your, or whatever you decide when you do your budget, set aside a certain percentage to that account. Make sure you don't have like an ATM card that you can go pull money out of that account and forget about it. So just, have everything be automated to that particular account and forget about it. And really just look at it as like a non-negotiable monthly expense, right? I mean, we have to pay our bills, or whether we like it or not. So I think if you treat that as just like a bill that you have every month, like setting money aside, it's a little bit easier to do that. Also, I think a good idea is to save as if you already have a mortgage. So what that means is, let's say, if you buy something, your mortgage is going to be about, let's just say $3,800 a month. And right now you're paying $2,800 a month in rent. So take that extra $1,000 and put it aside into that special, savings. That way too, once you actually are a home buyer, you're already sort of used to those payments. So I think that's another kind of good hot tip, is to, save as you're already, paying your mortgage. And then any unexpected windfalls, like, tax refunds, I like to call like mailbox money. I know we've all like unexpectedly received checks. Like I just got one from my insurance company, my car insurance during COVID. It was like $40, but it's $40 that I didn't have before. So things like that, mailbox money that you're not really like expecting, just any of those extras, you know, put that into your savings account. And then prioritize your high interest debt. So if you have multiple credit cards, I think it's best to start with the highest interest rate card first. On all the other ones, you can, you know, maintain, just pay the monthly like minimum. But on your higher interest ones, you want to pay more than what the monthly minimum is. And then once you finish paying that off, then you can kind of go work your way down from there. So that's prioritizing the higher interest rates. And let's see what else. Oh, cut out non-essential expenses. This one's a hard one. We all like to go out to eat. We all like, you know, to have all of our amazing streaming services, but really just take a look at, you know, what all of those, you know, monthly non-essential expenses like Netflix, like Hulu. Do you really need both? No, probably not. So that's a good way to kind of, you know, really see where your money is and cut accordingly. And then, you know, if you cancel your Netflix, expenses, take that $12 a month or however, $15, however much it is now. And again, put it in that special account where you're saving, you know, for your home. Also negotiate bills. So this one's a fun one because a lot of people don't know this, but most bills, believe it or not, are negotiable. And I can tell you from experience, I had a very high medical bill once many years ago, and I was like, how am I gonna pay this? So I called up the hospital and basically was like, what can you do for me? This is the bill, like, you know, and I can't afford to pay it. There were options, like you could show sort of financial hardships, but if you can't show that, sometimes they'll give, I got a one-time 30% discount on that bill. And I will just say this, the answer is always no if you don't ask. So you might call and they say, nope, you're on the hook for this bill. Also, you know, your T-Mobile, Verizon, whatever your cell phone provider is, like I will literally call and say, are there any special promotions happening right now where I can lower my monthly rate? A lot of people don't think to ask that. Same with like internet, like I have DirecTV. So I'll call from time to time and say, you know, my bill is really high. What kind of special promotions do you have right now that can lower my bill? And believe it or not, oftentimes there is something where you can keep the same services, but actually pay a lower bill. The only thing with that is usually you have to sign like a 12-month, you have to commit to them for like, let's say 12 months. And they don't tell you once the 12 months have passed that, you know, it'll go back to, you know, whatever, like once the promotional rate is finished, it'll go back to whatever the rate is. So you definitely have to keep an eye on it, which when you're budgeting and like looking at your expenses, you will keep an eye on those things. So definitely hot tip, negotiate those bills. I'll give you another example. My car insurance, for many years, I'd never been in a car accident before, but I was paying for a $1,000 deductible, and I realized that if I just changed $500 deductible. If I just changed my deductible to $1,000, I saved like $200 doing that, which is something that I didn't even really think of, but I'm like, wait a second, I've never really been in an accident. I'm paying extra, so I can come up with a lower deductible. And I thought of all of the years that I've been doing that, and I could have saved so much money had I thought about that. So, little things like that, negotiate your bills. And then you also want to monitor your progress. So for me, I like to save money, and once you see that, that little account, that seed that you plant, grow and grow and grow and grow, it's addicting. And it feels really, really good when you see that number grow. So you definitely want to monitor your progress. And then lastly, just patience and discipline. A lot of people that are in some sort of in debt, it doesn't really happen overnight. So be patient with yourself and know that, you didn't get here overnight, so it's not gonna take overnight to basically, get rid of all of your debt. So, you just have to understand that it could take time, but stay disciplined, and also, of course, avoid taking on new debt, because that's the whole point, is to get yourself out of debt. So don't open any new credit cards. I will say too, once you do pay off let's say you start with your highest interest credit card and you pay that off, don't close the account. Leave the account open, because that's another thing when people are running your credit. They see you have access to if you add up all of your credit cards and you're making up $25,000 that you could, that you could borrow, that you can, basically like charge on your credit card. So you have access to $25,000 in credit, but you're only using $10,000. Well, that shows that you're, responsible. And, you have all of this kind of offered to you, but you're not necessarily using it all. So that's another good thing. So when you pay off those cards, keep them open. As long as there's no monthly fee too. make sure that you check on that too. And that's it. Those are my hot tips for saving money. Yes, Shannon.
Okay, I'm Shannon Brandon, also part of this amazing team. And so we, have started with preparing for the home ownership. We talked about getting pre-qualified, and so we know we now have a budget that we can start shopping with. We've hired the agent that speaks to us and works with us and wants to be there with us. So now we get to go to the fun part and start looking at homes. And it can still be competitive out there. I don't know if you guys have talked to other people, and like in 2021 where it's like, you had to offer your first child in order to get the home because there were so many people fighting over it. Well, it's not that, thank goodness, but it can still be very competitive. And so you want to make sure that you're giving it everything you've got. And it's not all just about price, and it's not all just about, writing the right offer. There's very specific things that you can do. So the first thing, and most of the time, price is what's going to, talk to the seller. So now that we're in there, we find that house you want, we're writing that offer. We want to sit down and we want to look at, as a great agent will do, they'll run all the comps. So how much your house, what the value really is. What it's for sale for and what it is, it can be two different things. Sometimes people will list them low just to get people fighting over it. So you really want to know what the true value of that home is. And so your agent should run all those comps so that you know that. And at that point, you're more educated on what it would be a good offer for me to put in. And of course, you're going to look at, with your lender, if I offer this much, what is going to be my bottom line? What is my payment going to be? And I want to be confident in that that's the payment I want to stick with, and that's what I want to offer. So the first one is feeling confident with the price you're offering. Second is you definitely need not just a pre-qualification, you want a pre-approval. And so, somebody can just look at your credit and kind of look at the top of some of your income and debt to income ratios and such, but until they actually do a deeper dive and know that you're pre-approved versus just pre-qualified, that's going to speak louder when you put your offer in, so that you can show them that you have gone extra steps. You can even go further, and Joey can answer more on this, and have the whole thing fully underwritten. And so that way they've gone through all the process to make sure. And of course you always have to go through more once you're in escrow, but at least you're telling that seller that you have taken the steps and you are able to write this offer and stand behind it and get it closed. You want to structure the offer to meet the seller's needs and deadlines. So, we've talked about the price, we know that's very important, but what could be even more important is the timeline. So this seller is not able to move for 3 months. And so they need somebody that will be flexible with that. They need somebody that may say, we can do a longer escrow period. The general is 30 days. Maybe we can do a 45-day escrow period. Maybe we can offer them to rent back, or a lot of times we offer them to stay for free, because that's a little bit of extra value added after the closing date, to try to accommodate what they need to get moved. So there's different things that you can look at. If they, have a contingency on their saying that they need to find a new home. If you're flexible enough and you understand all the terms of what that means, then you guys will have that better advantage than somebody else that comes in that says, nope, I need to close in 30 days. I need to, making it dependent upon what the buyer wants. But you have to be flexible. And then you have 3 contingencies. And I, don't know if everybody already knows that, but you have the inspection contingency, you have the appraisal contingency, and the loan contingency. And so the contract automatically defaults to, 17 days, 21 days, things of that nature. But if you want to stand out to that seller, you can shorten those contingencies. We just make sure that we've got an inspector that can get in there quicker. We talk with the lender and ask them, how confident are you? What is the dates that we could actually get the appraisal done by and have the loan approved by? And so if we shorten the timeline on that, that is going to give that seller much more confidence that we are on it, our game is ready to go, and they will, if we end up falling out of escrow for some unknown reason, at least we haven't held them up for that entire amount of time. So that they've got, a little bit more reassurance that we're ready to go. There's an escalation clause, and sometimes when you just say, okay, this is the house I want, and I know that everybody's gonna come in, at a certain price. I don't wanna lose it by just a few $1,000s. So you can go in and say, I will offer $5,000 higher than your highest offer. You can say up to a certain amount and, do a cutoff. Sometimes when it gets into like the counter offers and such, they'll say we don't accept the clause. We need you to just give us a solid number. But I have had that work in some instances where we've been able to just say we're willing, that we're pre-qualified, we're ready to go, and we're going to pay you $5,000 higher than your highest offer. So, and they have to prove to us, it's got to be a bona fide offer. They have to prove to us and give us a copy of that offer. So get creative. Sometimes we can offer it's somebody that has passed away and the kids are trying to move them out, and the kids are out of state, and there's some furniture left, or there's some box, there's just some things. Say, you know what, we'll take care of it. We'll go ahead and clean that out for you. Just offering to make it easier for them on something that you feel confident that you can do and you feel comfortable doing. Sometimes standing out by saying, we'll pay the seller's closing costs. If it gets to be a really hot market, there's, just something that can make you stand out above the rest of the competition. So of course your agent, and your lender are going to help guide you through all of this, walk you through the scenarios, make sure you're making the best decisions. If the cat is on the property and they can't take it with them, keep the cat. So just know that you've got support. You guys are not in this alone, and we're here to help.
Thank you, Shani.
Jody, you want to do Q&A?
Oh, I love doing Q&A. Does anybody have any Q&A? We're gonna talk, girls?
No.
Come on.
Who has questions?
Question?
Anything?
Come on, that was hard stuff.
Just don't ask me what kind of car I drive. No, I'm just kidding.
For loans, are there any educator specials?
For teachers or in that?
Such a good question. okay, I have to remember which loan it is. There's a loan that rolled out, we just got recently. You'll meet me after and give me your number. And it is the craziest thing. You have to be, one of the requirements is you have to be either an educator, a nurse, doctor, or anything that you've ever volunteered at. So if you went to your church and you served a cookie to a parishioner, you qualify. If you swept the sidewalk for 5 seconds, you qualify. Like, it's what we call an attestation. So there's just an application where you just click a box and it says you were of service somehow. So that one, and that's one of the better fits for that. So if you see me after, I'll get the details on that, because I don't think that was on my list.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a good one. Okay.
Anyone else?
Was this helpful? Were you able to pick
Got a
up
question
some
from Misha?
tips?
Just-
How many of you want to buy a house? Okay, good. Glad we got the right.
That's a good start.
Except for
Okay.
one person who's like, not sure. Here's what I'll just say, just having been in business for almost 25 years now, holy moly, real estate's addicting. You know, when you start thinking about it and you start looking at properties, you're like, oh, that's cool. My youngest daughter sends me properties at least 3 times a week. Mom, check this out. She's born into a real estate family. She is not a buyer yet, but she will be soon. So just know that as you go through this process, you might get bit by the real estate bug, and that's a good thing. And even after all of these years of owning properties, I'm constantly looking and going, oh, that's cool. And my focus now is investment properties, but I love it. So I think that, you know, it is really addicting, but it's good to have a foundation and a framework of, okay, this is how it works.
I think to piggyback on that just a little bit is I think that if you go out and look at open houses or you're interested in looking at properties just for the fun of it, you know, and you think, okay, I want to try to buy, or I think this, you know, this year, next year, at some point I want to be a buyer, I would really encourage you to just start with the pre-approval process. Don't be afraid of that. Don't count yourself out automatically. A lot of people are like, I just know I can't because I know my credit's not great, or I know I just don't have enough money, or whatever. Don't do that, because the pre-approval process is free. There's no commitment, and I'm the least hard sell human being on the planet Earth. So,
Besides me.
yeah, we're pretty low-key, but it just will give you so much information. And then you can sit on that for 5 years if you want. Sit on that for a year, sit on that for 2 years. But as you look at things, once you're armed with what you truly can realistically do, and you have a really solid understanding of what that monthly payment really will be, because I've had people come to me recently that looked it up online. They're like, okay, they went on to like Zillow or Bankrate.com or one of these just online websites and figured out their own mortgage payment for what they thought would be the payment on, say, a $500,000 property. It was so wildly off. And it was off not in a good way. It was off way too low. And when I gave them the real payment, they were just like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Like, they'd really kind of been spinning their wheels with the wrong information. So it's a really good process to go through, and just get a handle on what you can or cannot do. Try not to be intimidated by it. Try not to be afraid of what you think the answer might be, because even if it's not right for you today, we can put you on a course where it's right for you in 2 years or a year or whatever that may be. But I just think it is such a valuable process to go through, to just be armed with that information. It's very empowering.
I love that, that's great. The other thing I'll tell you, just having bought and sold many properties over the years, even before I was in real estate, is that saving money to buy a home becomes addicting. I know that sounds a little weird, but as you know, like what Monica, you know, talked really eloquently about how you save and find money, but once you start doing it and you just see that little thing grow, and next thing you know, you get mailbox money. I mean, we've all had it happen, you know, you overpaid something and they send you a check back for $100. Awesome, put it in that account. And I'll tell you that I've done that. Somebody gave me that advice many, many years ago. And I remember, and Joby was involved, she did my loan for me, that about 3 years ago, I woke up one morning and realized that I needed to downsize and buy a house, and I needed to buy a house before I could sell my house. And I was like, oh, how am I gonna do that? And I went to my account, but it's kind of squirreling money away. I called up Chip and I'm like, well, here's how much money I have. Can I do this? She goes, yeah. And I was able to immediately buy a house. And an opportunity came up. So it's about just planning so that when the time is right, all of a sudden, sometimes it sneaks up on you. That it's happened to me many times. I mean, some of my best real estate acquisitions have been things that I had not planned for. But because I developed a habit of just squirreling away a little money, I've been able to really buy some very nice real estate over the years. So, is this helpful to you guys? Hopefully. Holly, did we give out the review cards?
They're here, I don't know how many people got them.
So here's what I'd just say, we would love for you to just do a favor for us, if you would, not requiring it. We're trying to get Google to like us. Everybody else likes us, but I don't know about Google. So if you have time, we would love it if you would give us a good review on Google. That's a little QR code you can just scan with your phone. Please say something nice about us though, please. Because we really do want Google to like us. But and then also, if you guys have suggestions for us on how to make this a better presentation, we are totally open. We have no ego in this game whatsoever. And we put these on a couple times a year. Our biggest thing is we like to get face to face with people. You know, Zoom's one thing, but we're like kind of, I don't know if you guys are over Zoom, but we're over Zoom. We want people to come and meet us. And by the way, we have food. So please help yourself. And I'm going to talk too much, so I'm going to stop now.
Anything else for me, just grab me after, or just throw out a question. I'm happy to answer anything.
Thank you guys so much for coming. It's great to meet all of you.